At a quick glance, it may seem that the cute grass fairy Pokemon Whimsicott lacks any notability beyond its surprisingly competitive prowess. The Pokedex often boasts about its genuine love for pranks and carefree rides upon the winds. However, peering deeper into Whimsicott may reveal a surprisingly intricate and heavy African American cultural origin than its lighthearted pranks let on. The first couple of hints can be seen directly on Whimsicott, in particular its brown pigmented body. Skin coloration, especially for darker skinned persons, is largely the result of a naturally occurring substance known as melanin. Whimsicott's skin tone can be interpreted as serving two separate but related purposes. First, being a grass type inspired by cotton shrubs would imply that the skin tone is akin to the brown trunks of cotton, a cash crop formerly harvested with slave labor. Second, the pigmentation may also reference the darker skin tone of most African ethnicities. This is further supported by Whimsicott's shiny form adopting an even darker complexion reminiscent of populations in sub-Saharan Africa and pre-colonization Australia. In addition to its brown skin, Whimsicott's cotton-like fleece bears resemblance to the iconic Afro hairstyle from the 1960s and 1970s. The sense of pride and identity birthed from the American Civil Rights Movement led to the rejection of European American beauty standards of straight hair. This became known as the natural hair movement. The process of straightening coarse hair with its hot combs and chemical relaxers was seen as oppressive during this fashion development. The Afro became a unique symbol of ancestral pride and pivotal to formulating a distinct African-American aesthetic identity. However, as prominent hairstyles became larger than life during the 1970s, the use of afros among African Americans diminished, instead being replaced by cornrows. The afro itself was deemed unprofessional and criticized like other facets of the civil rights movement. In addition, the afro became popular among people of non-African descent, thereby dueling its once radical symbolism of African identity. Aside from Whimsicott's outward appearance, more cultural clues can be found in its two fundamental abilities, Prankster and Infiltrator. Multiple Pokedex entries reference these abilities, including both Pokemon Y and Sun versions. Like the wind, it can slip through any gap, no matter how small. It leaves balls of white fluff behind. It rides in the wind and slips into people's homes. After it has turned a room into a cotton-filled mess, it giggles to itself and takes off. Using these dex entries, we can link Whimsicott's abilities to American slavery during the antebellum period. Slavery in the humid South was a brutal system that relied on fear and dehumanization to succeed. As such, slaves would actively resist their bondage through a variety of methods, including faking illness or simply running away nearby and returning the next day. In particular, Prankster and Infiltrator can be associated with two popular methods of resistance. The first method was sabotage of expensive farming equipment, fences, and setting fire to outbuildings such as stables. Resisting through sabotage was not only a nuisance to slave owners, but also expensive, similar to how Whimsicott is considered a nuisance to homeowners in Pokemon. The second method was simply running away permanently to the north or Canada, often through mediums like the Underground Railroad. Slaves would be guided by conductors like Harriet Tubman to safe houses coined stations. These so-called stations were often the residences of abolitionists like Thomas Garrett. In particular interest to Whimsicott is the reference of slipping through any gap, no matter how small. The fact that slaves would often hide anywhere available, including attics, barns, churches, and basements, correlates well with this Pokedex entry. In addition, conductors were often former slaves who would infiltrate slave quarters and begin their escape operations. Another dex entry that can further associate Whimsicott with American slaves comes from Ultramoon. Whimsicott doesn't live in a fixed location. It floats around on whirling wind, appearing all over the place to perform its mischief. Like its body color, this entry has two associations. For instance, slaves often married for life and often grew up in two-parent households whenever possible. However, it was common in my state of Kentucky and other upper South states for slave families to be separated by selling one of the parents. Thereby, Whimsicott's lack of a fixed home parallels well with the practice of family separation. The second association of this dex entry connects Whimsicott with a unique Brazilian folk creature known as the Sassy. This supernatural being originates from native Brazilian folklore, in which they describe Sassy as a magical one-legged child with red hair that would break the forest silence with shouts. This creature would later be transformed by African slaves imported into Brazil. Elders would tell children of the prankster Sassy and reinterpret him as a darker-skinned, red cap-wearing, pipe-smoking youngster. Just like Whimsicott, the Sassy is known for riding in dust devils and being mischievous. The association of this Africanized folk creature could lend itself to Whimsicott's fairy typing. Our last clue comes from the Unova television show Personality Assessment and Horoscope, where it's indicated that Whimsicott represents the month of April in the Unova horoscope. Like Whimsicott, this can be passed off as interesting trivia at first glance. But digging deeper, we discover that the American Civil War began on April 12, 1861. A conflict that fundamentally changed America by emancipating the slaves, reunifying the states, and beginning the long, difficult road to civil rights. So what do you think? Is there a secret inspiration behind Whimsicott? I know that I'm personally proud of this theory recreation compared to the original 2015 request video. Plus, it's always fun to connect history with Pokemon, and I personally hope you found this video interesting and entertaining. If you'd like to stay up to date, consider following me on Twitter @DerekTriforce. Subscribing with the bell notification will ensure that you receive upload notifications, and feel free to join my Discord server linked in channel and video descriptions. Like always, I'll catch you in the next one.